breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer from the welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. We're going to chat with him about what we might be seeing at this wild trade deadline, where Tariq Skubal might be off to, and so much more. In the final segment, I'm going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, RCM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, we did have a great day of baseball on Thursday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Yankees offense continues to struggle. They lose in 11 innings to the Chicago White Sox by a count of 2-1. Nice start here from Ryan Weathers. He weathers the storm. He goes 7 shutout innings. From there, Brent Hedrick, a scoreless inning on Alshivili. He gives up an unearned run as this was a game that was 0-0 going into the 10th inning. And then Fernando Cruz, he gives up the game winner. It's a walk-off walk to Tristan Peters. The former Savannah Banana, and Sean Burke was tremendous himself. 10 punch-outs in 6 shutout innings. Sean Newcomb, 2 scoreless. Brian Hudson, a scoreless inning. Chris Murphy gives up an unearned run in the 10th. And then Sir Anthony Dominguez, he was able to give you a scoreless 11th to be able to get that one to the window. The Rays, they continue to be the best team at home in all of baseball. 40-16. They get the job done 3-2 over the Walker Texas Rangers. Cole win the opener, scoreless inning. Marco Gonzalez, not too bad here. 1 run allowed in 3 innings. Peyton Gray gives up a home run in his 2 innings of work as it was Johnny DeLuca getting his 7th home run season. Then a little bit later on, Cedric Mullins, he was able to get his 13th home run of the season. That comes off of the Peoples as Robbie Alstrom, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Ben Peoples, he gives up that home run as he went for 2/3 of an inning. Sugar Shane McClanahan was removed from this game after giving up 1 run in 3 innings. A little bit of injury concern, so want to be checking in there. Casey Lugumina, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Cam Boozer does give up a run in 2/3 of an inning. Craig Kimbrell, he comes in for 2/3 of an inning scoreless. Steven Matz, rarely used, he was able to come in and he lent 2 shutout innings. And then Garrett Clevenger and Brian Baker, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning. For the Minnesota Twins, they get a walk-off grand slam as they were down 3-0 to the Kansas City Royals, and it squanders what was a really good effort here from Noah Cameron. He had a no-hitter going through 7 innings. He was removed after 8 shutout innings, and then the bullpen just absolutely lights this game on fire. Lucas Erceg, he gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but he put 3 men on base, and then the man that relieved him, Matt Strom, gave up a walk-off grand slam to Cody Clemens, his 19th home run of the campaign. And for the Minnesota Twins, Bailey Ober, not amazing, not awful. 3 runs, 2 of which were given up in 6 innings. Jack Caglione was able to get his 17th home run of the season. From there, Taylor Rogers, Andrew Morris, and Yandris Gomez, they're all able to register scoreless innings. This game went to extras as well. The Chicago Cubs, 4-2 winners over the St. Louis Cardinals. Andre 3000 Palante certainly did not give up 3,000 runs. 2 runs allowed in 6 1/3 innings. George Soriano from there, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Ryan Stanek, Riley O'Brien both led his scoreless inning, and Luis Castillo, he gives up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned in his inning work. Aviad Assad, not long for this game, 1 run allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Ryan Wilson, 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Caleb Theobar does give up a home run in his inning work, cranking him deep. It was J.J. Weatherholt for his 16th home run season, but Kevin Allwell scoreless inning. Jacob Webb and Aaron Savali, they combined for 2 shutout innings between the 9th and 10th innings. Being able to get this one in, the Atlanta Braves, 5-4, they take down the Washington Nationals. For the Nationals, Jay Garvin, first start off the injured list, not great. 5 runs allowed in 5 innings, gives up a pair of bombs. Mikey Yastrzemski, 7th home run season. Ronald Acuna Jr. is 8th. And for Grant Holmes, he gives up 3 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Also home runs, Luis Garcia, 23rd of the campaign. Dallin Lyle, his 12th and 13th home runs of the season. Then bullpen goes to work. Victor Medeiros gives up a run in an inning, but Dylan Lee, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Danny Young, a scoreless inning. Raciel Iglesias was able to give you a shutout inning as well. And then for the Nationals, he did have Carson Palmquist, 2 shutout innings. Ryan Cornelio was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. well, but the damage was done. The Reds, they were on to a 3-2 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates, who was really struggling in offense. Did have Brandon Lowe get Lowe for his 23rd home run on the campaign. That comes off of Rhett Lauder, who gives up 2 runs in 6 innings. From there, Brock and Roll Burke, TJ Antone, Emilio Pagan, all in a scoreless setting. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez was not mess with 2 shutout innings as the opener. Hunter Barco, highly touted prospect in his MLB debut with regards to coming in as a bulk guy. 2 runs allowed over the course of 3 innings. I think he had come out of the bullpen a little bit before this. Noah Murdoch, he came in and he cleaned up 2 shutout innings. Mason Montgomery a scoreless inning, and then Gregory Soto gives this game up in the 9th inning as you had Nathan Lowe get low. He was able to ground into a fielder's choice, which was enough to be able to get the job done. So that was a winner for the Reds. And then you had the New York Metropolitans get the job done 4-2 over the Miami Marlins, who have now lost 13 out of their last 16 games. They did get a pair of homers. Jacob Marcy is 6th home run on the campaign, and Kyle Sowers is 15th. Both come off of Noah McLean, who gives up those 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings. From there, Brooks Raley does not go off the Raley's 5 outs on the bullpen scoreless. Devin Williams, a scoreless inning, and Eury Perez, pretty solid start. 2 runs, one of which was earned, given up in 6 innings. Lake Bakar was able to come in for a scoreless inning. Michael Peterson, though, gives up 2 runs in 2/3 of an inning. John King was the king of being able to get you an out of the bullpen scoreless, but by then, damage had already been done. Being able to do some damage, the Red Sox bats. They get a 5-4 win over the Athletics. For the Athletics, Mason Barnett gets a start. Not too bad here. 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. And then you would have a pair of runs given up in an inning by Luis Medina, gave up a pair of solo home runs. As for Wilson Contreras, 23rd home run of the season, and Weiler Abreu, he wiles out for his 16th home run season. Scott Blewett does not live up to his name, 2 shutout innings, and Elvis Alvarado in the building for a scoreless inning. Sonny Gray against his old team had some struggles. 4 runs allowed in 7 innings, but Craig Weisert, Aroldis Chapman, they're able to deliver scoreless 8th and 9th innings. For JP Sears, well, he went out of business in this one, 4-1. The San Francisco Giants get the job done. Sears not long for this game. 3 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. Taken deep by Daniel Sucic. 3rd home run season and 3rd home run this week. Wandy Peralta gives up a run in 2/3 inning. Randy Vasquez, really good in long relief. 4 2/3 innings scoreless, but damage by then had been done, and Robbie Ray hit Pippa Ray for a great start. 1 run allowed over the course of 6 innings. Caleb Killian, Dylan Smith, Eric Miller, they're all able to turn scoreless innings, and then in the nightcap, you had the LA Dodgers be able to get the job done here against the Seattle Mariners, this by a count of 6-2 as Brian Wu, more like Brian Boo. 5 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. Alex Hoppe was happy about the fact that he only gave up 1 run in 2 innings. Pair of home runs here for the Dodgers. Dalton Rushing off of Wu, 12th home run season. Then Hoppe gives that one up to Teoscar Hernandez, 9th home run season. Cole Wilcox, a scoreless inning, and Roki Sasaki, 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Jack Dreyer, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Edgar Enriquez, and out of the bullpen scoreless. Tanner Scott and Edwin Diaz, great Scott. They both had a scoreless inning, and Diaz fresh off the injury list there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting in Major League Baseball right now has been quite a bit of action to the under recently, as the under rate now in baseball is right around about 50.7%, 787 overs, 810 unders, and if Matt serves me correct, 38 pushes along the way. Favorites on the money line hitting at just over 56%, 892 and 696, and among those favorites, 220 have failed to cover the run line, and that's been a rough result for favorites here over the last 7 days. They're overall on the money line not doing bad, 55 and 41, but 19 of those favorites failed to cover the run line. Meanwhile, the under rate right around about 59% over the last 7 days, 57 unders, 39 overs, and a push along the way. And if you're looking at the last 30 days of Major League Baseball, under rate about 56.1%, 186 unders, 153 overs, and I believe 10 pushes along the way. And then favorites on the money line hitting at about 57.5%, 198 and 146, with 55 of those favorites being unable to cover the run line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's where we're getting trend-wise. Coming next, let's chat it up with one of our good friends, William Boor, over at Action Network, right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the Beast Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be joined by this man, as we've got William Boor aboard. He does such great work over at Action Network, taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. He's doing a great job on so many different fronts. I know that he's getting set for college football. He does a great job on that front. If it's offered pretty much on the Las Vegas betting board out here in the United States, they do a great job of covering all that over at Action Network. And for William, you're able to follow him on Twitter/X at the letter W, last name Boor, Boor, all together. And William, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on, talk some baseball, talk some betting, and we're starting to get to the most fun time of the year.
Oh, we definitely are. And William, just how do you take a look at what we're going to be getting the next few days? Because I still feel like there's a few teams stuck in limbo, like for the Minnesota Twins. Whether or not they actually trade away Joe Ryan is a question mark because it feels like the Tigers have played their way out of it, but it's an incredibly weak AL Central. Obviously, the Athletics, the Angels, the Rockies, they are going to be sellers. I don't know what the Rockies have to sell, but they're going to be sellers. But that said, how do you take a look at this time period where it still feels like there are some teams that are on the borderline?
Denver's a good beer city. Maybe Colorado could just send
Yeah.
beer. Yeah, I think some of these borderline teams, it's going to be interesting, and it probably depends on contract status on some of these players. So, like the Twins, could they win the AL Central? Yeah, sure. They're only 3 games back. But they might want to take a look at the bigger picture and sell. I'm not necessarily saying that's what they're going to do, but like just because you could win the AL Central, what does that get the Twins? Like this team, I don't think anyone thinks they're beating the Yankees or beating the Rays. Not that they're going to win the AL, but like they're not beating the Braves, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Brewers, the Cubs. Like this team is not winning a World Series. And I don't necessarily mean to pick on the Twins. There's a lot of teams. The Guardians are in this boat as well. You could maybe say the Red Sox and the wild card. There's a lot of teams in this boat that are just kind of stuck in the mud, as you said. And I think they're going to have to make a choice of, hey, and it probably depends on the franchise and just like where they're at. Is a playoff berth like a success for our franchise? Have we not been in the playoffs in a long time? Then let's go for it and let's give our fans that. If you're a team that's, that's underperforming, that's been in the playoffs recently, that's maybe won a World Series recently, and just getting to the playoffs isn't going to be a big deal, then maybe you do sell even though you're only 2 to 3 games out.
Yep, it's going to be so many decisions for these teams. And I think that's interesting with regards to this American League team as well, because for the Chicago White Sox, there were, let's call it what it is, little to no expectations for them coming into the season. All of a sudden, they find themselves winning some big games against the New York Yankees here over the last few days. And a lot of people are saying, hey, it's a young team. Why go all in this year? But I just don't think that you're going to have a better opportunity to be able to make noise in the American League than this year because it's so weak. And how do you take a look at what the White Sox might be doing here over the next week or so? Because I think they should be buyers, and I think that this team should go for it because even though maybe you'll have more bites at the apple, you might not have a better chance than what you've got right now.
Yeah, I'd be buyers, but I would be
cautious buyers.
I would be cautious buyers. Yeah, I'm not trading everything for, not that the Tigers would trade him in division, but like I'm not unloading everything to get Skubal because like I don't think he makes the difference. But if you can grab an upgrade at a corner outfield or something, or like you can get a bullpen, if you can win on the margins. Yeah, that would work too. I think if you can win on the margins, you get some small acquisitions, like I would definitely buy. I wouldn't stand pat. I also do think buying at the deadline, even if it's small, I think it does something to the clubhouse. It does something to the locker room when you say like, hey, look, we believe in you and we're going to invest in you even more. You guys have been doing great. Keep it up. I think that's a lot different than ownership sending you the message of like, meh, we're just going to stay still with it. So I think even if they do something small, I think that buying small will be good for the vibes, will be good for the city. And like you said, like this is a team that's been really bad for the past couple of years. Like go win the division. That would be huge for the White Sox.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I think that that's a team that they just need to do something. They don't need to move heaven and earth. They don't need to be the team that trades for Tariq Skubal or anything like that. But add a veteran, be able to get a little bit of experience from a guy who knows what the playoffs are like. I think that that would be so big for them. So they're going to be an interesting team moving forward, as we do have William Boor, does such great work over at Action Network, joining me on the Baseball Betting Show. And then do have to address this as well, because it does seem like Tariq Skubal's time with the Tigers probably going to be coming to an end with all the social media posts and everything like that. I know that the Brewers and the Yankees the Brewers and the Dodgers are the two teams he's most tied to. But how do you take a look at the Skubal sweepstakes? Because myself being a Brewers fan, I would argue the Brewers should be going after bats over a guy like a Tariq Skubal. Even though every team can use Tariq Skubal, don't get me wrong, but I feel like for the Brewers, they've got enough pitching to be able to make a deep run in the playoffs. What they really need is a bit more offense.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it always comes down to price, but for whatever it's worth, I'm looking on Kalshi right now, and Skubal's odds of being traded are at 91%. So there's not a lot of sentiment that he finishes the year in Detroit. I think the issue, too, with whether it's Milwaukee or LA is, I know Jeff Passan mentioned that he would prefer to sign with LA in free agency. So you've got to consider that, like, if you're the Brewers, is what you're giving up maybe for a rental. Obviously, it's a good rental and would do a lot for the Brewers' chances. But like you said, their pitching is really good right now. I'm with you. I would probably want to get a bat. If he goes to the Dodgers, it's just nothing's a foregone conclusion. But that would be, I feel like, so devastating for like the rest of the league. We're still going to watch it. I'm still going to bet it. We'll still find value in other games, but boy, would it suck a lot of the excitement out of September if he's wearing blue in the end of the year.
Right there with you. And I know that with Tariq Skubal, he said that he wants to finish his career with Detroit, and he would, in this case, be a rental. So there's a chance that they'd be able to sign him in the offseason as well. So there's a lot that's going to be going on with Tariq Skubal, and that's going to be an interesting watch, to say the least, as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And now let's take a look at some of the games that we've got for Friday, because we've got some good ones, and then we've got some duds. Like, I think that the Brewers should absolutely lambast the Angels with Ryan Johnson going on the mound, but this one I think is interesting. We've got the Pirates versus the Reds. Hunter Green trying to make his way back for a Reds team that's probably finding themselves out of it. For the Pirates, they're right now on that cut line. It was a rough series for them against the Arizona Diamondbacks. It's been a rough second half for them in general, but they've got Paul Skeens going as about minus 125, minus 130 favorites. Want to get your thoughts here, because for Green, he's got a high ERA, but the strikeouts have been there. And for Paul Skeens, I feel like he's been better than the ERA as well, but both of these teams also have rough bullpens.
Yeah. And the other thing here is we were just talking about the trade deadline. I know Cincinnati doesn't necessarily want to, but Hunter Green is young. He's under club control through 2028. Teams always want pitching. A good outing here from Hunter Green could possibly be his last in Cincinnati, and he would be a really interesting piece for a team to add, because the strikeouts are always there. Like you said, the ERA is high, but part of that is a product of small sample size since he was hurt. I mean, he, because of where we're at innings wise, could drop his ERA like 2 runs over 3 starts or something like that. As far as this game, like you said, both pitchers, kind of some weird stuff in the data there. Both bullpens are bad. To me, I would rather be on Cincinnati in this. I think Skeens kind of is what he is. Hunter Green, as he's working his way back from injury, I think there is a chance that maybe he goes deep, only gives up 1 run. Like, I'm kind of just playing on upside there, but I don't really love this because you need the Reds to get to Skeens early and then get to that bullpen.
Yep, exactly. And it's going to be interesting to take a look at that matchup, because I'm right there with you. I think that there's positivity to him for both of those starters, but man, the bullpens for both of these teams are very, very rough. So that's one of my favorite games of the day to just be able to kick back and watch. And then I think this one's interesting because Foster Griffin has actually been great for the Washington Nationals. If you're looking at your most profitable pitchers in all baseball, depending upon your closing numbers, Griffin is either number 1 or number 2. So he has really made you money going against the Atlanta Braves. And right now the Nationals are a small, like plus 110-ish underdog, total of 9 against Bryce Elder. Want to get your thoughts here, because Foster Griffin, he's continued to get the job done. I do fear a little bit of regression with him. And again, that Nationals bullpen is just so rough.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the Braves are obviously a very good team. They're playing really well. There's a reason they're winning the division. I feel like capitalizing on Griffin is a good way to get a cheap Braves money line here, where you don't normally get that price. Even if Griffin shuts down the Braves or keeps that game close, you're going to have a couple innings of the Braves offense hitting against the Nationals bullpen. So to me, if I'm getting the Braves at a cheap price, which we're getting right now, like, I really like Atlanta in this spot.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I do think that this is a great spot for Atlanta, and I do think that we're going to be able to see this Braves offense be able to get to Griffin, and then that just bad bullpen. And this one, I think, is another very intriguing game, because we've got ourselves a pair of teams that this could be a playoff matchup. It's the Rays and the White Sox. Just talked about whether or not the White Sox should be buying and selling, and I would say that if you're the White Sox, you might want to try to get Eric Fetty out of the rotation. He goes for the White Sox against Nick Martinez and the Rays. Total on this game is 8, with Rays right around minus 135, minus 140. Want to get your thoughts here, because both of these guys have actually been solid. Both of these guys are pitching to a gob ton of contact, though. I think this could be a good spot for the over, with 2 pitchers that I feel are very much due for regression.
Yeah, I don't hate that play as an overplay. If you want to take a side, for me, it's Tampa Bay or nothing. I think they have the starting pitching edge. They're at home. They're 40-16 at home this year. White Sox are 23-30 on the road. Like, to me, this is just a Tampa Bay spot if you want to side. I don't mind the over at all, but if we're just talking money line, for me, there's only one way to go in this game.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I landed on Tampa Bay myself. I felt like they should have been a much bigger favorite than this. I just don't trust in Eric Fetty, especially when he's away from home. So we are in lockstep there. And then I do think that it's going to be fascinating to see what we get out of some of the interleague games as well, because for the Yankees, they actually locked up a winning month of July record-wise. We both know that the offense is just completely toilet bowled, though. Now they go up against Shota Imanaga and the Cubs in a day game on Friday. Thank goodness we have a day game. And Cubs are about minus 140 favorites against Will Warren and the Yankees. Want to get your thoughts here because I just have not been able to trust in Shota Imanaga the last 2 months. He has not been great. Meanwhile, for the Yankees, their offense has not been great. Total of 9, even with the wind blowing in. I feel like it's a good old something's got to give sort of game.
Yeah, and because of that, for me, it's a pass because, like you said, you haven't been able to trust Imanaga. I haven't been able to trust the Yankees over the past couple weeks. I think the Yankees are the better team. I feel better about New York in this spot, but just right now, the way everything's going, to me, this game is just kind of see what happens. I'm kind of on a week and a half, 2-week Yankee break, and then kind of see where they go.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. I'm going to be in on the over personally just because I want to fade Shota Imanaga, and I always love being able to play the overs when the wind is blowing out there in Wrigley Field, but with the Yankees, it's very much a roll of the dice there. And then when it comes to this one, I think it's also very intriguing because we've got ourselves a Blue Jays team that they're out of it at this point. I thought that they were going to be able to find their way back, but man, it's just not happening for them. They've been able to win when Dylan Cease has been on the bump, though. They're about minus 175 favorites against the Cardinals with Kyle Leahy going. Want to get your thoughts on this game because for the Cardinals, now they've got a lot of critical games that are coming up, and for the Cardinals, they have to decide what they want to do at the deadline as well because, in my opinion, they've had a little bit of an overachieving season, but we've seen them toilet bowl over the last few weeks as well.
Yeah, to me, the Blue Jays definitely one of the bigger disappointments of the season. Like you said, they've struggled. I didn't expect this team to be 9 games under 500. However, as you mentioned, Dylan Cease has been a bright spot. I really do like Toronto in this spot. I like Toronto when Dylan Cease pitches and then pretty much no other times. So I will be on the Blue Jays, but at that price, I will find something else to pair with it. I don't know if it'll be WNBA. Maybe it's Blue Jays money line and Cease's strikeouts. Maybe it's just Blue Jays and Brewers. I'll pair something with it, but I'll be on the Blue Jays.
Yep, I think that that's a good way of looking at it. And personally, I think that there might be some value, especially if you can get an 8 on the under as well, just with how good Dylan Cease has been. And Blue Jays dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation as well. So that's something that I'm going to be taking a look at myself.
That's a very fair way to look at it, yeah.
Yeah, and that way you're not paying minus 170, minus 180 would have you. And we do have ourselves a good slate on this Friday. Few games are sort of off the board, but I mean, it should be a fun one. Anything else that's really calling your name?
I think we touched on the big ones. Eovaldi, Hunter Brown in Texas battle is going to be interesting to me. First glance, I'll probably be on Houston, the Astros, but that's definitely a matchup that even if I don't get there with the number, that's something I'm going to definitely have my eye on and check out the box score after.
Yep, and with Nathan Eovaldi, the big thing for him being able to reduce on the hard contact because his strikeout numbers are good. He's not giving out a lot of walks, but he has been a little bit prone to the deep ball this year. And for Hunter Brown, he's been getting a lot of strikeouts as well, but he's giving up over 4.5 walks per 9 innings. So if they can lock down, we might be able to get a good pitching matchup there. And we always know we're going to get a great chat when you're aboard, William. You do such great work over at Action Network. I know that you're getting set for football season and so much more. So all the good people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yep, follow me on Twitter at WBoor, WBOOR, and in the Action Network app at William Boor _. As you mentioned, we've got everything at Action Network, either on our website or in the app. We got betting guides for every baseball game every day. We've got home run props. We've got strikeout props. We've got WNBA plays. We're starting to release NFL and college football futures as well. We'll have a whole bunch of stuff. We will have plenty of content if you want to bet the Hall of Fame game next Thursday as well. You don't have to watch it. You just have to bet it. If you've got it, if you want to bet it, we've probably got it covered. So just be sure to check out Action Network.
The Hall of Fame game might be the most heavily bet garbage game in the history of mankind because everyone wants to get in on it. I still remember the one year where they just totally canceled it as well. So you don't know what you're going to get. It's like, whose line is it anyway? Everything's made up and the points don't matter in preseason, but if you bet on it, it certainly does matter. And William, he does a great job in terms of breaking it all down every single time he joins me. Lends such great insight. So big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It's always a pleasure to be joined by William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. He is doing a tremendous job looking at baseball, getting set for the upcoming college foosball season, and so much more. Every single time he joins me, he lends such great insights. Did so once again today. So, big thanks to William for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Friday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice and clean and easy. Let's get her started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. It is the Buccos. They are on the road facing up against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we're on to Cincinnati, who's on to Hunter Green, getting the start for them, and Paul Skeens for the Pirates. Right now, the total is between 7.5 to 8. On the 7.5, over is -120. The under is even. On the 8, the under is -115 to -120. The over is between even and -105. Pirates -122 to -130 favorites. And between +105 to a +108 is that number on Cincinnati. If you're looking to lay a run half right now with Pittsburgh, you're getting about a +135. And if I really had to play this right now, I would just take a run half with the Cincinnati Reds at like a -150, -155. I'm looking for a +118 on the Reds money line. So when it's all said and done, I think I'm going to get there. So I'll be in on the Reds on some sort of bet, whether that be the money line or the run line. Currently, I just don't know which one until we see a little bit more maturity with these overnight numbers. But for Hunter Green, I do think that there's a lot of positivity to in for him. He's had a few rough starts, but he's also just had a really small sample size. That skews things as well for Mr. Hunter Green at 7.06 ERA, but a fielding independent of a 320, 12 punch-outs per 9 innings. He's only giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9. He had 2 rough starts, he had 2 great starts, and that has led to a very high ERA. And Paul Skeens is pitching much better than the ERA would indicate as well. 3.65 ERA, fielding independent of a 272, 11 punch-outs per 9 innings, but big reason why I personally would rather have a 7.5 over rather than an 8 under. Both of these bullpens have also really not been great, to say the least, as far this season. For the Pirates, it was so bad for Justin Lawrence that they just had to DFA him. They've had Evan Sisk, who might be their best reliever, be on the injury list. Mason Montgomery has not necessarily been too amazing for this team either. So you just look down the list, and you're not getting a lot of production there. Currently, for the Pirates, they're 23rd in terms of bullpen ERA at a 4.38. Reds, 25th at a 4.53. They've been more roundabout league average since June 1st, so there has been a little bit of improvement there, but you've had a lot of these guys just post up ERAs above a 4, like a Sam Moll. You haven't gotten a lot out of Pierce Johnson. Do like what Brock and Roll Burke is able to give you, but Emilio Pagan, absolutely no faith there. And for the Pirates, do recognize that since the All-Star break, the offense has deteriorated a little bit, but they're still 3rd in the league in terms of run creation. They average 4.9 runs per game away from them, and this is a Cincinnati Reds team that I think you'll see some improvement moving forward. Their offense are actually averaging fewer than 4 runs per game at home, which I do find to be very shocking, but they were dealing with the injury to Ellie De La Cruz, Spencer Steer, JJ Bleday. Have all been able to give you between about 15 to 18 home runs. Cousin Sal Stewart, he's been your main guy. He's been able to supply 22 bombs for De La Cruz, about a 350 on base. He's got that double-figure amount of stolen bases for Sal Stewart, more like a 330 on base. And then you've got a few guys like Nathaniel Lowe, who gives you 12 home runs, about a 330 on base. base. They need help at the bottom of the fold. Cabrine Hayes, Savali Marte, when they've had him, Will Benson, those guys have been a little bit rough, but for the Pirates on the flip side of things, I do like what they've been able to get out of their offense. Brandon Lau has been able to get loud. He's been able to give you 22 plus home runs this season, and they've got plenty of guys moving line. Spencer Horwitz is expected to be back at some point in this series. Jake Magnum is hitting at 300, and with Horwitz, he's up to a 386 on base. Brian Reynolds is right in that same neighborhood as well. You've been able to get 17 home runs, about a 340 on base out of Ryan O'Hearn. So on that 7.5, do like the over. And for the Reds, plus 118 or better, looking at the money line. If not, I'll take a chalkier plus 1.5 run line. 9:53, 9:54 on the card. It is the Miami Marlins on the road against the New York Mets. Freddie Peralta is on the bump for the Mets. Jansen Junk hopes to not live up to his name for the Miami Marlins. And for the Marlins, they are an underdog here, anywhere between plus 108 to a plus 115. And between minus 125 to a minus 135 is that number on the Mets. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105. And I do like the over. I set my total at 8.7. We've really seen the deterioration of the Miami Marlins bullpen over the last few weeks. Like, overall for the season, they've been a top 10, top 12 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've been able to have Lake Bakar be a relatively okay long guy for the most part, but he's toilet bowled recently. Michael Peterson, great name, dealing with an injury. Anthony Bender's on the injury list. Like John King, he's continued to give you a 275 ERA or lower, but Pete Fairbanks is awful. Calvin Fauché is awful. William Kempner's on the injury list. Just a lot of issues there. And Jansen Junk, while he does a nice job in terms of not hurting himself with the walks, he's only giving up about 2.5 walks per 9 innings. He's not giving up closer to about 1.25, 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, and he just doesn't get strikeouts. Fewer than 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's pitching to a lot of contact. When he's been away from home, that ERA goes up to a 6.31, and in his road starts, he's giving up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings, if not a little bit more. So that's a little bit of an issue. 5 bombs given up in 25 2/3 innings. Meanwhile, for Freddie Peralta, holy crud, things are just not going well here, to say the least. He's up to a 4.99 ERA, career low 8.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, which for a mortal pitcher, that's actually pretty solid, but he really relies upon those strikeouts because the command has never been the world's greatest for him. He's giving up about 3.8 walks per 9 innings, and for Freddie Peralta, things honestly weren't awful for him going into the month of June, and you look at his last 9 starts, and he's given up 40 runs, 34 of which are earned in his last 41 2/3 innings. Yeah, not great to say the least, and yet I'm still willing to back this team because the Miami Marlins are not a team that necessarily gives you a lot of power. They're a bottom 8 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now, they do have a lot of guys that steal bags. Otto Lopez, Esteri Ruiz, Jacob Marcy, Xavier Edwards, all with at least 18 stolen bases. Now, for Marcy, he's hitting like the Mendoza line 200. You need more there. And at the bottom of the fold, something like a Grant Pauly needs to give you a little bit more. Kyle Stowers is starting to give you a bit of boom. He, Alberto Hernandez, Liam Mix, between 14 and 16 home runs, but now they're without Owen Casey as well. Javier Sanchez has been a guy that's been able to move line along Griffin Conine, but not necessarily a team with a lot of power. Flip side for the New York Mets, they're without Juan Soto. That's rough, but they've actually averaged more runs without Juan Soto rather than with him. They had that big outburst of 10-plus runs against the Atlanta Braves a few days ago that really helped out. Francisco Alvarez, Marcus Semien, Bo Bichette, Carson Benj, all between 10 and 12 home runs, and for Bichette, Benj, Alvarez, rating between about 255 to 265. It's not like amazing, but they're giving you something. Marcus Semien less than a 275 on base. Mark Vientos has been terrible. You need more out of Francisco Lindor, so that's been an issue. And for the Mets, they're about a league average team in terms of bullpen ERA. The top guys have been really good. You look at AJ Minter, Oscar Brizabin, Brooks Raley, Luke Weaver, all giving you sub 325 ERA. Austin Warren and some of the mix and match guys have been an issue, but I do think that Freddie Peralta rounds into better form, and do think that you get some runs in this game. Like the over, so I told it at 8.7. Willing to lay up to a minus 143 on the Mets money line. 955, 956 on the card. It is the Nationals. They are going to be on the road against the Braves as Bryce Elder hopes to not look elderly for the Braves, and Foster Griffin goes for the Nationals. And Nationals do find themselves as a underdog here of between plus 108 to a plus 115. Meanwhile, minus 125 to a minus 135. That's your number on Atlanta. 8.5 to 9 is the total on the 9. Under is minus 120. The over is even on the 8.5. Over is minus 120. Under is even money. And I'm going to take the over. I did set my total at a 9.2. Foster Griffin has had really good season numbers, but also for Foster Griffin, you have to have a lot of fear that regression is going to be coming in from the fielding independent numbers are just screaming it out. 276 ERA, 394 fielding independent, 8.2 strikeouts, 2 walks per 9 innings. He gives up about 1.2 home runs per 9, but I really do have a lot of fear that we're going to see this just start to toilet bowl a little bit. He's been really good recently, 6 earned runs allowed across his last 5 starts, and then for Bryce Elder, I think he's doing for even more regression, 447 fielding dependent compared to a 396 ERA, 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, he's given up 1.4 bombs per 9, and has now allowed 3+ runs in 5 out of his last 8 starts, so that's a little bit of an issue. You've got a Nationals team that's currently numero uno in terms of run creation. They've been giving you about 5.5-ish runs per game, and away from home, that goes up to about 5.7 runs per game. Braves, meanwhile, they're a top 10 team in terms of run creation at home with about 5 runs per game, so you've got 2 very lethal offenses with the Nationals, even though they trade away a guy that's out hurt in Curtis Mead. You've got James Wood giving you good wood, 30 home runs, darn near 400 on base. CJ Abrams, 27 bombs. He's been up to over a 365 on base as well. And then Luis Garcia is up to 22 home runs himself. You need more likes of Andre Shapiro, Dylan Cruz. They just have never really developed, but I think that might be coming sooner rather than later. And Nasim Nunez, under the radar, 38 stolen bases this year. Meanwhile, for the Atlanta Braves, Matt Olson is up to 28 bombs. You've got Mauricio Dubon, Ozzy, Albies, Tom Smith, only between about a 260 to 270, and then Michael Harris, he doesn't really draw a lot of walks, but 19 home runs, hitting about a 295. Drake Baldwin, since the All-Star break, has looked much better, and for the Nationals, you're still dealing with Brad Lord, PJ Poulin being on the injury list. That's hurting this team very much so. They're right there in the bottom 2 in terms of opening area. Carson Palmquist, Riley Cornelio, these 2 guys have an ERA well above a 5. Clayton Beater doesn't knock your socks off with about 358, and then the Atlanta Braves are the top team in terms of opening area in the National League. The Dylan Stone, Lee, Dylan Dodd, DDA Fuentes, Mauricio Iglesias, these are all guys give you a sub 350 ERA. Even some of these more mix and match guys, aside from really Tyler Kinley, have been able to step up, do a relatively solid job in this bullpen. Like, I've been liking what I've been seeing out of Danny Young. So with the Braves, going to be willing to take them on the money line, set them at a -134, and I'm in on the over, so I told 9.2. 957, 958 on the card. The Padres are going to be playing against the San Francisco Giants. Carson Whisenhunt to goes for the Giants. This should be Urban Marquez and or Randy Vasquez going for the San Diego Padres. This is a game that's totally off the board. We've got a lot of question mark here, but that said, if you do get sort of the mismatch of Urban Marquez, set the Padres at a -142. Would be willing to go up to a -141 there, plus 143 or better. Looking at the Giants, set a total of an 8.7, 8.5 or less, in on the over 9 or higher to the under. Like, even these prediction websites don't have an opener on this game because we have a lot of question mark here, but that said, I do think that for the San Diego Padres, they're going to be really leaning on the bullpen with Urban Marquez as an ERA that is above a 5, a fielding independent that's above a 6. He's giving up 2+ home runs per 9 innings, so it's often great to say the least, but you might be getting like a little bit of Kyle Hart as a bit of a long guy as well. Like, I think that this is just a mix and match sort of game for them. He's got a 4.87 ERA, but has been much better recently, so we'll give a little bit of credit where it is due for the Padres. Obviously, you've got the likes of a Yuki Matsui, throw in there Wandy Peralta, Mason Miller. These guys give you a sub 350 ERA, and for the Giants, they are in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. I will say Eric Miller now has a sub 350 ERA. They've been dealing with a few injuries to the likes of JT Brubaker, but you've been able to get good production as well of Keaton Wynn. He's now off the injury list, so that'll help him out a little bit. And for the Giants and the Padres, both of these teams, bottom 10 offenses in terms of run creation, been better recently for the Giants, though. Rafael Devers, along with Casey Schmidt, both have been able to give you 20+ home runs this season. Schmidt has been in and out of the lineup a little bit recently, but still, you have to like what you're seeing there. And then William Adames, no on base whatsoever at like a 275 to 280, but he is up to 18 home runs. Bryce Eldridge has been able to give you about a 350 on base, and then Luis Arias, Jungle Lee hitting a 300+. Eloy Ramos has been able to move line as well for the Padres. Fernando Tatis Jr. actually has a few home runs post All-Star break, and he's up to a 355 on base. You've had Manny Machado slug out 23 home runs, still less than a 305 on base, but it's getting better. Ty France, Jackson Merrill, 15+ home runs apiece, and France has been able to give you about a 285 average, so it's an interesting circumstance because I do think that Whisenhunt, he's going to be pitching in some form or capacity for the San Francisco Giants, and the ERA is not necessarily the world's worst, but in the few cups of coffee that he's had at the big league level, just hasn't knocked my socks off. 4.60 ERA, 5.47 fielding independent this season with 7.5 strikeouts, 4.6 walks per 9. So, like I said, 8.5 or less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under, subject to a little bit of change with those pitchers, but one lay up to -141 on the Padres, plus 143 or better, looking at the Giants. 9.59, 9.60 on the card, though. White Sox are going to be on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Nick Martinez goes for the Rays, and You've got one Mr. Eric Fetty Wap going for the White Sox. White Sox are an underdog here of anywhere between plus 113 to a plus 120. Minus 134 to a minus 140 is that number on the Tampa Bay Rays. 8 to 8.5 is the total. On the 8.5 under is minus 120. The over is even. On the 8 over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115. And I like the Rays here. I did set them at a minus 170. I just think that Eric Fetty Wap is doing for a lot of regression here, because for Fetty, overall this season, he's posting up an ERA that's right around about a 4.25, which is actually quite solid. But the fielding independent, that is more in the neighborhood of a 5.45. He's only getting 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.8 home runs, 3.3 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, Nick Martinez, he's obviously going to be pitching to a lot of contact, and to the credit of Martinez, he has been inducing a whole bunch of soft contact thus far this season, but you do have to wonder when things start to run out a little bit there. A 2.45 ERA, but closer to a 3.77 fielding independent. 0.8 home runs, 1.5 walks per 9 innings, but 5.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, and he is backed up by a Rays bullpen that I'm not going to call it the most atrocious in the world, but for the top team in the American League, you'd expect it to be a little bit better, as right now the Rays are right around about 16th in terms of opening ERA. You've had a guy in Cam Boozer really be able to come in and give you a sub-3 ERA. Casey Lugumina has been able to give you some solid innings as well, and then I love Brian Baker. He's been able to give you a sub-3 ERA, but I think Garrett Clevenger has had an up-and-down season for this team. They've at times had to rely upon Craig Kimbrell for innings, and it's a place where you don't want to be. And then on the flip side for the White Sox, they did have to go to extra innings yesterday, so they did expend quite a bit of that bullpen. And you've had these guys like a Grant Taylor, or even throwing their Brian Hudson, Sean Newcomb. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They burnt up Sir Anthony Dominguez yesterday, which is not necessarily the world's worst thing. Jordan Hicks continues to be absolutely awful, but this is a White Sox team that is a top 10 team in terms of opening ERA ever since June 1st. You've had Sam Antonucci really do a nice job in terms of moving the line. He and Montaka Murakami both over a 370 on base. Murakami, Miguel Vargas, Colson Montgomery, all at least 22 home runs apiece. Now for Montgomery, only hitting about a 220, and you need Everson Piera, who's giving you about a 280 on base, to give you a little bit more there. But Tristan Peters, a former Savannah Banana, has been able to hit about a 270. Lou Anel Acuna swiped some bags, and he's been better in terms of getting on base as well. Chase Meteroff, about a 350 on base. Flip side for the Tampa Bay Rays, you've had Junior Caminero supply 29 home runs. He's over a 350 on base. And then you've got Jonathan Aranda, Yandy Diaz, 14 to 15 home runs apiece. Both of these guys have been able to give you over a 360 on base. And then someone like Nick Fortes is hitting above a 250. You've gotten some good production out of some of these, I like to call them random guys. Johnny DeLuca is hitting like a 260. Ben Williamson is able to about a 250. And then you've got one of the better base stealers in all of baseball in Chandler Simpson. So with the Rays, think that they go out there, they get you the over and get the job done, set them at a minus 170. And on that Rays money line, and the over made by total at an 8.6. 961, 962 on the card. The Rangers are going to be on the road facing off against the Houston Astros, as you've got Hunter Brown on the bump for the Stros, and Nathan Eovaldi goes for Texas. Texas back to being an underdog here, anywhere between plus 108 to a plus 110. Meanwhile, minus 123 to a minus 132 is that number on Houston. 8 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. If I can get in on like a minus 125, minus 130, which I'm seeing, I set the Astros at a minus 129. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. Now for Hunter Brown, he has had all sorts of command issues thus far this season, and that's been a little bit rough, but I do think that that's going to be ironing out a little bit. He's dealt with a little bit of injury towards the beginning part of the season, and it does feel like he sorted that out a little bit with his last start against the White Sox. He had no walks there after he had given up 4+ walks in each out of his last 3 starts. Overall, 3.45 ERA, 4.41 fielding independent. He's getting 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's only giving up 1 home run per 9. Again, the walks have just really been what has destroyed him. And for Nathan Eovaldi, he's just had an issue giving up the deep ball. A 4.05 ERA, really not giving up a lot of walks. 2.1 walks per 9 innings, 9.6 punch-outs per 9, but 1.6 home runs per 9 innings. That's a little bit of an issue, and this is a Astros team that's a little bit all or nothing at the plate. Yordan Alvarez, 33+ home runs over a 400 base. He has been absolutely superb for the team. And Jeremy Pena, he's now hitting above a 300. Maybe not the world's greatest power hitter, but he's doing a tremendous job moving line. Big reason why the Astros have gotten back to 500. Jose Altuve is a little bit long in the tooth, but you know that he's going to supply a little bit more. The big thing is they just need more out of, for one, the catcher spot. Yunior Diaz, 275 on base, and then the mix and match outfielders. Like you've got Lamont Wade, Cam Smith, Zach Cole. You go down the list. Lucas Spence, so many guys. Hitting at 225 or lower. Drury Looper Fido has been banged up all season long. Man, really nobody other than Cam Smith supplies a lot of power. But even 13 home runs with a 280 on base, you need a little bit more there. Now for the Astros, they've been a top 5 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st as well. That's really going to help out their cause, while the Rangers have been a bottom 8 team there. They had to use up a lot of bullpen pieces along with Marco Gonzalez yesterday. Cole Winn is like a 6 ERA. Now, Tyler Alexander, even though his ERA has gone up a little bit, still sub 350 there. The Jacobs, Jacob Junis, Jacob Lads, they've been relatively solid, but we're starting to see some regression with Peyton Gray as well. And then on the flip side for the Astros, AJ Blubaugh has actually become a relatively reliable long guy. 375 ERA out of him. Stephen Okert has been able to give you a sub 3 ERA. You've had Brian King be a little bit up and down this season, but ever since Josh Hader has returned, things have been better. Kaiwei Tang coming out of the bullpen, he's able to lend a little bit of length as well. So with the Astros, I'm willing to lay that like minus 125, minus 130 number. Even though the Rangers offense has been significantly better recently, they took a little bit of a dive yesterday against the Tampa Bay Rays, even though Shane McClanahan had to leave early. And you've got guys that are getting on base for this team, likes of Justin Foscue, Ezekiel Duran, Brandon Nimmo, throw in there, don't call his name, Alejandro Ozuna, hanging between about a 258 to a 270. In the case of Ozuna, he's been able to give you about a 350 on base. You don't get a ton of power out of these guys, but Jock Peterson, Jake Berger are above 16 home runs this season, and Peterson has been able to give you a 340 on base. Nice bounce back season out of him. In a small sample size, Nicky Lopez sitting right around 300, and I really think the catalyst for this team has been Wyatt Langford. Maybe not insane numbers, but he's been a bit better. So this is a circumstance where I'm going to be in on the Astros on the money line. I did set them at a minus 129, and I did set my total at some 0.9. I do expect some positivity here for Hunter Brown, so going to be in on the Astros here, and with this total right now seeing at an 8 or higher in on the under. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Detroit Tigers on the road against the Athletics. We do know that Casey Mize is going to be on the bump for the Tigers. Right now, Fangraphs is projecting Jeffrey Springs as the starter for the Athletics, and there's no numbers available on this game. I personally set the Tigers at a minus 154 on the money line. I'd be willing to lay up to a minus 102 on the run line, so pretty much anything of even money or better will be looking there. Need at least plus 155 to take a shot on the Athletics, and then set a total of a 10.2. 10 or less in on the over, 10.5 or higher the under. Now I'll say this, if it's not Jeffrey Springs, there's probably not going to be much of an adjustment, because for one, this is an Athletics team that's absolutely awful with their bullpen. Since June 1st, they've got a bullpen ERA that is above a 6. Like, all these guys, Elvis Alvarado, Jose Suarez, Luis Medina, none of them are trustworthy. Like, Hogan Harris has been okay. That's about it. And they had to use a lot of bullpen pieces yesterday as well. So, if you don't get Jeffrey Springs, it's not going to be much of a downgrade, not much of an upgrade. Because for Springs, 623 ERA, 601 fielding, dependent 2.3 home runs per 9 innings, and he's been even worse at home this year. So, yeah, you're in a rock and a hard place sort of situation. So this is not going to change much if you don't get Jeffrey Springs. Meanwhile, for Casey Mize, he has been rock solid here for the Tigers. A 270 ERA, a 259 fielding dependent, 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up a half home run per 9. He's been solid at home. He's been solid on the road. There will be a lot of adjustment if you don't get Casey Mize in this game, but you should. And for the Tigers, the one kryptonite for this team is that they just really haven't been great on offense this year. Right now, it's a Tigers bunch as right around about 18th in the league in terms of run creation, but that goes down to about 4.15 runs per game away from home. That is a bottom 8 mark in all of baseball. Now they're getting back Labor Torres. That helps them move the line, as he, along with Riley Green, Kevin McGonigal, have all been able to give you at least a 360 on base. You need a little bit more in terms of average out of Kerry Carpenter along Spencer Torkelson. Torkelson, 16 plus home runs, but he's giving you less than a 315 on base, and Kerry Carpenter well below a 300 on base, so that's been a little bit of an issue. We'll say for the Tigers, this has been a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st. Maybe took a little bit of a dive with their previous series, but Tyler Olin has been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Kenley Jansen, not trustworthy in big spots. When you don't have big spots, he's actually quite good. Kyle Finnegan has been able to do a nice job in terms of supplying some good innings. Brendan Hennefy is now off the injury list. Don't trust in Drew Summers, but Drew Anderson has actually been a nice long guy for the team. And then with the Athletics, they are currently dealing with the injury to Shea Langolaires. That's an issue, 20 plus home runs, but they do get back Nick Kurz. Hasn't quite been himself since coming off the injury list, but overall for the season, 400 on base, 21 home runs. Tyler Soderstrom, since the beginning of the month of June, has like a 400 plus on base, spends a little bit of time with injury, but hey, he's been solid, 17 home runs and less than 350 at-bats. They're still dealing with the injury to Zach Galoff, which hurts them, but Jacob Wilson, he's been able to give you a little bit of average hitting, about a 275. We have seen Henry Bolte really start to regress a little bit, but I like what I'm seeing out of Carlos Cortez. He continues to give you about a 340 on base. So interesting little bit of a circumstance here. Like I said, pretty much anything of even money or better. Looking at the Tigers run line plus 155 or better. The Athletics, whether you get Springs, bullpen game, what have you. And then 10 or less in on the over, 10.5 or higher. The under semi-total 10.2. 965, 966 on the card. The Twins are going to be on the road against the Mariners as Bryce Miller goes for the M's. And you've got Zebby Matthews who goes for the Twins. Twins who find themselves as a sizable underdog here between plus 154 to a plus plus 160, minus 180 to minus 192 is that number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total in a lot of spots with the over at a minus 125 and the under at a plus 105. Seeing some eights pop up. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. If you're looking to lay run half right now with the Mariners, I'm seeing as good as a plus 125 out there, and I'm going to be looking to lay the run line here. I set mine to where a plus 112 or better. Put me in there. I set the money line more around a minus 177. I'm just not wanting to lay a minus 180 plus here, but when it comes to Zebby Matthews, I feel like he's a little bit of an all-or-nothing pitcher. Right now, last season, he was getting 10-plus strikeouts per 9 innings, and he's improved very much so recently. He has now given up 2 earned runs or fewer in 3 out of his last 6 starts, but in the other starts, he gave up 4, 4, and 10, with 8 of those runs being earned. So, you either get really good Zebby Matthews, or you get really bad Zebby Matthews. He's down to 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.8 bombs per 9. Now, it's a Seattle Mariners team that is coming off of a series against the LA Dodgers, so that's not necessarily amazing, and this has been a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation. Cal Raleigh, big dumper. He's been taking a big dump this year. He's giving you only about 10 home runs, less than a 180 average, but you do have a few of these mix and match guys really starting to step up, as you've been able to have Luke Raley be able to give you 13 home runs. He's been able to give you a little bit of something there. Dom Canzone's been great. 18 home runs, nearly 350 on base. Randy Arozarena, 13 plus bombs, 370 on base. You're starting to see this offense improve a little bit, and for this series, Brendan Donovan might be back, so that'll help you out quite a bit. Meanwhile, you've got a Twins team that just hasn't necessarily gotten a ton out of Byron Buxton recently. They have that walk-off grand slam yesterday against the Kansas City Royals, and Cody Clemens has actually been quite solid. 19 home runs, not a guy that's going to hit for a ridiculous average, 245 with a 300 on base, but Lucas Shaw's been able to give you about a 350 on base. Trevor Larnach is up to a 375 on base, and then Ryan Jeffers, 400 on base out of him. Just hard to trust in this Twins team with this absolutely awful bullpen. Bottom 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had Andrew Morris, Andres Gomez could be able to give you a sub 375 ERA, but I mean, they're kicking the tires on Tommy Nance right now. Taylor Rogers, Travis Adams, well above a 4 ERA. Cody Funderburk is starting to find it a little bit more, but he's been all sorts of wobbly this season. It's really hard to have a lot of faith in a young gun like Jack Anderson as well. Kendrys Rojas has been solid, but sometimes they need to utilize him as a starter, so makes for an interesting circumstance against a guy in Bryce Miller that just doesn't give out any walks whatsoever, and I know that he's been experiencing a little bit of regression recently, but this guy has been incredible this far this season. 275 ERA, closer to 365 fielding, dependent, but 9.3 strikeouts, 1.4 walks per 9 innings. One thing is he does give up the 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, so fascinating circumstance here. I set my total at 7.6 with just how bad the bullpen is for the Minnesota Twins, and additionally, you've got some injuries with the Seattle Mariners bullpen as well. Matt Brash along Cooper Criswell, currently out of the fold. Andres Munoz has not been himself this year, though. You've got Gabe Spire, Edward Bazardo, Jose Ferrer, giving you sub 325 ERA. I like the 7.5 to the over rather than the 8 to the under, and for the Mariners, willing to take that run line. 967, 968 on the card. The Cubs are going to be playing us the New York Yankees. Will Warren goes for the Yankees, and Shota Imanaga for the Cubs. The Cubs are between minus 135 to minus 145 favorites, between plus 115 to a plus 120. That number on the Yankees. 9 is the total. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105. And if you take a look at the wind situation at Wrigley, it's going to be blowing out about 8 or so miles per hour. If we're lucky, it's going to be 10, and that puts me in on the over. I said my total 10.2. Like, Shota Imanaga has not been good recently. Now, if you want not good recently, how about the New York Yankees lineup? About 3.5 runs per game in their past 33 games. They are very much clearly missing Aaron Judge right now. Paul Goldschmidt had a little bit of a career renaissance towards the beginning part of the season. That's really starting to wane a little bit. Ben Rice continues to be great. Ben Rice, he's been able to give you about a 360 on base. Maybe he's toilet bowled a little bit, but still over 28 home runs. He's been solid, but these young guys, they need to step up. Yasan Dominguez with a 272 on base. You just have not been able to get a lot out of the catcher spot in general. Austin Wells has been horrible this season. Anthony Volpe has never really developed for the team. Jose Calabrillo at 290 on base with not a lot of power. Spencer Jones had a home run in that series against the White Sox, but he hasn't necessarily been great. Where the Yankees have really shined has been with regards to their pitching. They're number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA since June 1st. They did have to burn up quite a few arms yesterday. Fernando Cruz, Brent Hedrick, Paul Blackburn, they've been able to give you a sub 3 ERA, but you did notice in that series against the White Sox that did deteriorate a little bit. And then again, like I said, when you go to 11 innings against the White Sox, that hurts you a little bit, though they didn't burn up a ton of the bullpen. And Angel Shavilio, they burnt up yesterday, sub 1 ERA. That's actually been very rock solid for the team, but Flip side for the Chicago Cubs, they went to extra innings yesterday, and they're dealing with all sorts of bullpen injuries like Riley Martin, Daniel Palencia, Porter Hodge. There are so many guys that are out of the fold. They had to use up Ryan Rolson for 24 pitches yesterday, so he's at a 255 ERA. He's one of their more reliable guys. Grant Hollowell, Jacob Webb, sub 275 ERA out of both of those guys. They got used up for over 10 pitches yesterday as well. Now for the Cubs, they continue to mash. They have been a top 6 team in terms of run creation. Pico Armstrong, 380 on base, 20 plus home runs. He's really been a remarkable over the last 2 months. Nico Horner, they're starting to get him back. He's been a little bit up and down, but say Suzuki, 360 on base, 15 plus home runs. Alex Bregman's starting to give you a little bit more. It's been a disappointment for him this season, but he still gives you about a 340 on base. Michael Busch is able to give you a 360 on base. Same goes for Patrick Ramirez. So these guys have been relatively solid. Again, for the New York Yankees, it's been rough with their offense, but I'm going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line. Getting back to Shota Imanaga, if you look at the overall season numbers, maybe not the world's worst, 372 ERA, 440 fielding dependent with 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, but last 12 starts, 2.3 home runs allowed per 9 innings. That's not great. And Will Warren, he himself has really toilet pulled a little bit. 1.3 home runs, 3.2 walks per 9 innings, 441 ERA. He does a better job keeping the ball in the yard away from home rather than at home, though. So plus 115 or better in on the Yankees money line. And set a total 10.2. I'm in on the over. 969, 970 on the card. The Orioles are going to be playing us to the Philadelphia Phillies, as we do know that Brandon Young is going to be on the bump here for Baltimore. Right now it's undecided for the Phillies. This game is off the board. Last we saw this spot come up for the Phillies, they used Brian Keller in a little bit of a bulk role, and then they just mix and match from there. I'm thinking you get something similar here, and if that's the case for the Phillies, I set them at a plus 147. This could be upgraded if you get someone coming off the injury list or something like that, but assuming that you get a hodgepodge, maybe you get Alan Runhell or something like that, I'm going to be setting them as an underdog. If you do get Brian Keller, I know, really amazing story, but he's probably not going to be giving you a lot of length. You're probably going to be looking to much of a Philadelphia Phillies bullpen that has good pieces like Yohan Duran, aside from what he's facing up against the Miami Marlins along with Ryan Kirkering, being able to give you a sub 325 ERA. And Jonathan Bolin has been able to come on, and he's been able to give you some good innings out of that bullpen as well. But when you look at someone like a Tim Meza, Chase Shogurt, these guys have been up and down this season. And Jose Alvarado, holy crud, has not been great for him, to say the least. We'll see if this team makes a move at the trade deadline, because Lou Trevino's on the injury list, and if you were looking to Lou Trevino to start with, that's probably a place where you don't want to be. Seth Johnson can fill some innings, but that's probably a place where you don't want to be either. And then with regards to this Philadelphia Phillies lineup, it has been one that has been in the bottom 6 in all baseball in terms of run creation away from home. They're a far better team in terms of scoring at home. You've got Kyle Schwarber, 33 bombs, 365 on base. Bryce Harper, 22 bombs, 355 on base. And then you've had Brandon Marsh, 16 home runs, 288 with regards to his average. Trey Turner is really starting to pick it up. 15 home runs, 17 stolen bases, now hitting about a 245. Bryson Stott hitting above a 250. Still been a miserable year for Alec Boehm and the outfield. Gabriel Cronus, Adolis Garcia, guys like this. It's been not necessarily amazing for them. Derek Hill, probably not the answer for this team, though. In a small sample size, not necessarily too bad. Flip side, you've got an Orioles team that has been much better at home rather than away from home with regards to their lineup, as for Baltimore, they do find themselves in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. 4.8 runs per game at home, 4.4 runs away from home. Could use a little bit more on base out of Gunnar Henderson. He's below a 300 on base, but hey, he has been able to do a nice job supplying the 18 home runs this season. Pete Alonso's up to 22 home runs, give you about a 345 on base, and Taylor Ward way down with his power last year, 30 plus home runs, down to 7 this year, but hey, 385 on base. Samuel Basayo's up to 16 home runs. They're dealing with the injury to Adley Rutschman, so these guys like Chadwick Trump and company, throw in there some of these mix and match guys at the bottom like Tyler O'Neill, Colton Cowser, Kobe Mayo, hitting below 215. You need a little bit more there, though I will say, for Mayo, he's been able to give you the 14 home runs this season. Orioles have been a bit improved with that bullpen as well. They've actually been a top 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA ever since June 1st, and I really like what I've seen out of Brandon Young. I don't know if it's necessarily sustainable, a 3.13 ERA while getting just 7.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.85 home runs allowed per 9, about 3 walks per 9. He's doing a good job in terms of just holding down the fort. And then Albert Suarez is a relatively good long guy with a sub 370 ERA. Uncle Rico Garcia about a 3 ERA. Tyler Wells a sub 3 ERA. Yunier Cano, maybe he's not back to peak form, but he's had himself a relatively nice season as well. And Andrew Kittredge has been really good down the stretch as well. So circumstance where I did set the Orioles here at a minus 147. I'm willing to lay up to minus 146 there, plus 148 or better looking at the Phillies, and set high total here, 9.5 or less, in on the over 10 or higher to the under, as I made my total a 9.6. 971, 972 on the card. The Cardinals are going to be on the road against the Blue Jays. Dylan Cease is on the bump for the Jays, and Kyle Leahy, he is going to be going for the Cardinals, and Cardinals do find themselves between plus 143 to plus 160 underdogs. minus 170 to minus 188 is that number on Toronto. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 7.5. Over is minus 115, under is minus 105. On the 8, under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. If you're looking to lay run half right now with the Blue Jays, that is between a plus 120 to a plus 125, and I'm going to be looking at the Blue Jays here on the run line. I do think that they can get to Guy Leahy, who has been very serviceable this far this season. Like, Leahy's not going to blow you away with a bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, but he does a nice job in terms of not hurting himself. 3.55 ERA, 4.07 fielding dependent, 7.8 strikeouts, 3 walks per 9 innings, but I was only giving about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings, so I've been liking what I've been seeing there. And for Kyle Leahy, if you look at the home and road splits that he's had this season, 4.27 road ERA, he is giving up darn near 2 home runs per 9 innings away from home, so that is a little bit of a concern. He also does get to go up against the Blue Jays team that's dead sinking last in terms of run creation this year, like Flagler Jr. 6 home runs. You just expected a little bit more there. Kazuma Okamoto is the lone guy in the roster that's able to give you 12 plus home runs this far this season, and he's sitting in the neighborhood of like a 225 to 230. He's up to 24 bombs this season. You do have guys like Nathaniel Lukes, along 30 Clement, hitting above a 280. Having AC Sanchez out of the fold has really hurt the team, and Yohendrick Pinyago has not been himself since coming off the injury list, but I do think that they're going to be able to get to a Cardinals team that they had to go extra innings yesterday against the Chicago Cubs. So they did burn through quite a bit of that bullpen. They have been in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA as well. George Soriano has been solid. He, Riley O'Brien, both a sub 350 ERA, both used for 17 plus pitches yesterday. Ryan Stanek has been much better, but they had to use him up yesterday. Luis Castillo, hopefully I got that correct. He's been rough for the Cardinals, and they're dealing with the Jojo Romero injury as well. And then for the Cardinals, they're averaging over 5.2 runs per game away from home. That is third in all of baseball, and they're a bottom 5 team with their run creation at home. It makes no sense. You've got J.J. Weatherholt, Alec Burleson, both have 15 and 16 home runs apiece, both above a 340 on base. Jordan Walker, 340 on base, 22 home runs. Ivan Herrera away from home gives you darn near a 4 on base, so he's been solid. You can use a little bit more at the bottom of the fold, like whenever Victor Scott and Pedro Bajas have been out there, they haven't given you too much. Jimmy Crooks, the backup catcher, he's been a little bit of an issue, so it makes things very interesting because Dylan Cease, I think that he goes out there and totally dominates, but you do have to fear that after he had such a good start in his last outing, he was able to go, I believe, a complete game, that maybe there's going to be a little bit of a letdown here, but I mean, overall, 246 ERA, 232 fielding dependent. The big issue that you always have with him is walks, 3.8 walks per 9 innings, but 13.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. I think that the Blue Jays go out here and they get the job done. I did end up setting a low total here of a 7.3. I'm just trusting in Dylan Cease, and again, Blue Jays dead last in the big leagues in terms of run creation, so going to be in on the under with the Blue Jays. I'm going to land on the run line. I know that it's a little bit of a roll of the dice, but laying a run half with the Jays to go along with this total to the under. 973, 974 on the card. The Diamondbacks are on the road against the Guardians. Tanner Bybee goes for the Guardians, and Mitch Bratt is on the bump for Arizona. And Arizona does find themselves as a mid-tier underdog here. You're going to be getting them between plus 112 to a plus 116. Meanwhile, minus 130 to minus 140, that number on Cleveland. 8.5 is the total. The over is anywhere between minus 125 to minus 105. The under is anywhere between plus 105 to minus 115, and with the Diamondbacks, I set them at a plus 144. Just really hard to trust in Mitch Bratt with such a small sample size. He's made 4 starts, and he just hasn't really delivered a lot of length for the team. Thus far, only 15 and 2/3 innings, 6.3 walks, 5.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, while giving up 2.3 bombs per 9. Now, he does get to go up against a Cleveland Guardians team that in their last 48 games are averaging about 3.8 runs per game, so that's been awful. And Tanner Bybee has been giving up quite a bit of the deep ball this year. 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, career low 7 punch outs per 9, 3.89 ERA, 457 fielding dependent, but I do still like this total to the under. I did set my total at an 8.4 because you do have a Guardians team that is a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Again, this has been a very pitcher-friendly ballpark over the last few seasons as well. Eric Zabrowski has been regressing a little bit closer, about a 3.50 ERA, but Hunter Gaddis back below a 3 ERA. He has been rock solid. You're getting Tim Aaron off the injury list now. You've had Colin Holderman do a nice job in terms of living up to his name, and for the Diamondbacks, they had a rough series with their bullpen against the Pittsburgh Pirates in that game number 2, but hey, you take a look at most of these guys like Ryan Thompson, Taylor Clark, Braden Garcia, Juan Murillo. These are all guys that have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA. I just don't trust in Paul Sewald whatsoever, but Gerald Carrillo, he's been able to give you some solid innings as well. And for the Diamondbacks, this team is more of a league average team with regards to run creation away from home. Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte, 19 home runs. He's been hitting about a 255. Corbin Carroll's been a little bit cold recently. He and Nolan Arenado between 14 to 15 home runs, both hitting between about a 244 to 254, and Carroll's up to about a 345 on base. Other than those 3 guys, nobody else gives you over 8 home runs. Now, Gabriel Moreno's hitting above 3 iron. You've been able to get some good production out of Geraldo Perdomo with over a 350 350 on base, but Lourdes Gurriel's been banged up all season, and when he's been out there, he's been awful. Ryan Waldschmidt, he moves the line, but he really doesn't give you a lot of pop. And then on the flip side of things, you've got a Cleveland Guardians team that is getting back on El Martinez along with Jose Ramirez. That should be able to elevate the offense a little bit. They just don't have a single guy that's giving you more than 13 home runs. Kyle Manzardo's that guy with 13 bombs, but he's one of very, very many guys that's just not really getting on base for this team, as he, along with Patrick Bailey, Petey Halpin, Daniel Schneemann, David Fry, you go down the list of these guys, Rhys Hoskins, they're hitting below a 220 thus far this season, so that's been a big issue. Travis Bazzana's been a little bit better. He, Stephen Kwan, both give you between about a 340 to 350 on base, Chase DeLauder as well, but I do think that for the Guardians, their pitching gets the job done here. Willing to take a shot on the under, semi-total at 8.4, and for the Guardians, willing to lay up to minus 143 on the money line. 975, 976 on the card. It's the Royals. They're going to be on the road against the Rockies. Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for the Rockies. Michael Wacha, and if he has a bad start, it's a dying Pac-Man voice of Michael Waka 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 Waka. Goes for the Royals, and the Royals find themselves here in a relatively pick'em game, anywhere between minus 104 to a minus 110 for the Rockies, between minus 104 to a minus 110. 11 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. Seeing some 11.5s as well. Under is minus 120 and the over is even, and I'm going to take a shot on the over. I semi-total 11.8. Recognize that the Royals are dead stinking last in terms of run creation away from home, and Bobby Witt Jr. is currently out of the fold, but they do get to face a pitcher contact guy in Tomoyuki Sugano with a 4.69 ERA, but closer to a 5.46 fielding independent. He's only getting 5.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's been giving up a 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA. Zach Ognos, along with Victor Vodnik, Jaden Hill, Juan Mejia, these are all guys giving you over a 4.75 ERA, but you know whose bullpen is even worse? The Kansas City Royals, and that was on full display yesterday when they gave up the walk-off grand slam after Noah Cameron threw 8 incredible innings. Lucas Ursich, Matt Strom, Alex Lang, all these guys, they're giving you over a 4.75 ERA. It's just been absolutely awful for them. Daniel Lynch has been relatively solid, but that's about it. And the Royals have been a little bit better with their offense recently. Jack Aguillon, he's up to 17 home runs. He's been able to supply about a 255 average. Carter Jensen, he's not necessarily hitting for a ton of average, but up to 14 home runs. Lane Thomas gives you about a 325 on base. They're getting back. Vinny Pasquantino has been a disappointment this year, but hey, Salvador Perez, he's up to 15 home runs. I think he's had 5 since the All-Star break, so only giving you about a 260 on base. So you need a little bit more there, but even a guy like a Michael Massey, Nick Lofton, these are guys, they're moving the line, but I do think that for Michael Wacha, the fact that he pitches to a lot of contact, him pitching in Coors, that's really going to be hurting him quite a bit, because for Wacha, he's a solid pitcher. 3.60 ERA, about a 4 fielding dependent, 1.1 home runs, 2.6 walks per 9 innings, but again, 7.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, and this is a Rockies team that has been a team that's been averaging over 5+ runs per game at home. TJ Bromfield has been able to darn near 300. You've been able to have 30+ home runs out of Hunter Goodman. He has been very much a good man for the team. Mickey Moniak, he's back off of injury. He's been able to give you 17+ home runs this season, hitting over a 275, and then Willie Castro hitting above a 270. Cole Carrig has been a nice add. Jake McCarthy's hitting darn near 300, so do like the over, so my total 11.8, and with the Rockies, made them the minus 133 favorite, taking them on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. The Brewers are going to be on the road against the Angels, as Ryan Johnson goes for the Angels. Shane Drone goes for the Brewers, and the Brewers who find themselves as good-sized road favorites here, as on the money line, you're going to be finding them between a minus 154 to as high as a minus 171. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Brewers, that's right around even money, seeing as good as a plus 105 out there, and Angels are between plus 130 to plus 140. Total is 9, under is minus 115, the over is minus 105. I like the over, I somebody told 9.3, mainly because I think that Ryan Johnson just absolutely gives it up here. This guy's been absolutely terrible. Like, he's got a 628 fielding independent with a 734 ERA, 2.4 home runs, 3.7 walks per 9 innings. Now, I recognize that this Brewers lineup is a bottom 7 team in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. Now you're dealing with Jake Bauers being out of the fold as well, but I mean, it's also a Brewers lineup that is a top 6 team in terms of run creation. They're getting 5+ runs per game. They just do such a great job in terms of small balling you to death. We'll see how they do with the Bauers injury, but Andrew Vaughn is hitting above a 300. Jackson Chourio has been absolutely incredible. 13 home runs in less than 225 at-bats. He's been hitting at 275. Bryce Terang, William Contreras, so many guys give you over 340 on base. Cooper Pratt, maybe not a ton of power, but he and Garrett Mitchell move line. And Christian Yelich hasn't even been able to be in peak form quite yet. Brewers have by far the better bullpen in this game, as Chad Patrick is a long guy. Grant Anderson, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, all these guys give you a sub-365 ERA. Aaron Ashby coming off of a little bit of a rough go of it, but Shane Drone should be able to go out there, dominate. 3.51 ERA, 3.01 fielding independent. He's been giving up only about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, 9 punch-outs per 9, and have an Angels team that's actually a bottom 5 unit in terms of run creation at home. As a matter of fact, they're 3.7 runs per game at home. That is last in the American League. I do think that irons out a little bit. You've got a pair of guys, Zach Neto, Mike Trout, who have been able to give you 17-plus home runs. They both give you over a 330 on base, so they've been solid, and Wade Meckler has been able to hit darn near 300 for this unit. They've been dealing with Edwald Peraza being in and out recently, so that's been a little bit of an issue for them. Nolan Schuno, though, about a 355 on base. They did end up trading away a guy or two, like I believe that they traded away Donovan Walton, but hey, they've been able to do a nice job mixing a match, and they get away from Logan O'Hoppe, which honestly I think is a good thing for the bullpen. Chase Silseth, though, that was one of their best pieces. They traded him to the Texas Rangers like 48 or so hours ago, so you're looking at a little bit of short-hand bunch. Brent Suter, about a 4.25 ERA, former Milwaukee Brewer, by the way, and then you've had Jose Fermin give you a sub-3 ERA. That's been relatively solid. Kirby Yates, about a 3.75. He's been a little bit up and down. Sammy Natera's been relatively okay, but when they've trotted out these old veterans, like they trotted out their Nick Sandlin to begin the season, Jordan Romano's now on the Rockies, but I mean, that was a failed experiment. We all know what happened with Alek Manoah. That's been absolutely awful, and I think the Brewers just go out there and just take hammer to nail. I said the Brewers where I'd be willing to lay up to minus 125 on the run line, so I'm in on the Brewers run line, and I'm in on the over, so I told 9.3, and wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. It is the Dodgers. They're going to be playing us to the Red Sox, as Ranger Suarez is on the bump for Boston. Right now, it is undecided who's listed for the LA Dodgers, so that's a big reason why this game is off the board. Fangraphs is projecting Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and if you get Yoshinobu Yamamoto, I set the Dodgers at a minus 167, so I'd be willing to lay up to minus 166 there, plus 168 or better. Looking at the Red Sox, and set a total to wear an 8.5 or less. I'm going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. Keep in mind for Yamamoto, if he does get the start here, his career ERA is actually about 1.2 points higher when he's at home rather than away from home, but even with that, he's still such a dominant pitcher. Even though his 10 strikeouts per 9 innings in the first 2 seasons of his career, down to more like 8.5 this season, he's still been able to do a nice job keeping the ball in the yard, not giving up a lot of walks, and if you don't get him, it's going to be a very sizable downgrade here for the Dodgers, at the very minimum 30 cents, if not 35. Like, if it's a mix-and-match bullpen game, you've been able to get some good innings out of Jack Dreyer, Alex Vesia, Tanner Scott. These guys have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Edgar Enriquez has been solid as well, but some of these guys like Kyle Hurt, Will Klein, the mix-and-match guys, have been starting to regress a little bit, and the Red Sox are the number 1 team in terms of bullpen ERA, but it's hard to restore Ranger Suarez to his full value because he was missing for about 3 or so weeks. He's been dealing with a little bit of a stomach bug in his last start against the Toronto Blue Jays. Kept it clean, 6 punch-outs, and he was able to go 4 shutout innings, but still, he gave up 4 hits in that time span as well, so I still do have a little bit of trepidation there, but you do have the likes of Giovanni Morin, Garrett Whitlock, even Teran Guerrero, who've been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. You've been able to have Aroldis Chapman be one of the best closers in all of baseball, and for the Red Sox, they average much more offense when they're away from home rather than at home. For the Red Sox, they continue to be a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation at home, with about 3.9 runs per game, over 4.5 runs per game away from home. Obviously, Wilson Contreras has been the main man, being able to give you over a 380 on base, 22 plus home runs. That's been rock solid. And then likes of a Ceddanne Rafaela, Anthony Siegler, Masataka Yoshida, Weiler Abreu. These have been guys that have been able to give you about a 320 to a 345 on base. Abreu has now been able to give you 15 plus home runs, so I like what these guys have been able to bring to the table. Still need a little bit more, something like Jaron Duran at the bottom of the fold, but all of a sudden, Caleb Durbin has been able to give you a bit more as well. And for the Dodgers, very interesting home and road splits with regards to their offense, as they lead the league in run creation away from home, but only about 4.5 runs per game at home compared to about 5.8 away from home. Mookie Betts, when he's been out there, has been looking significantly better over the last few weeks. I don't know what was going on with him at the beginning part of the season, but he's getting back to that form that we all know and love. You've been able to get 21 bombs out of Max Muncy. He gives you over 340 on base. Andy Paz, Freddie Freeman, they're combining for 33 home runs. Freeman now back up to a 300, and Tommy Edman, it's a small sample size, but he's been hitting well above a 300 as well. Kyle Tucker still has been a disappointment, but I think that he, along with Teoscar Hernandez, going to give you a little bit more moving forward. So assuming it's Yoshinobu Yamamoto going in this game for the Dodgers, I'd be setting them more around about a minus 167, so I'd be willing to lay up to minus 166 there, plus 168 or better. Looking at the Red Sox, and then in after less, looking at the over 9 or higher to the under. If it's not Yoshinobu Yamamoto, probably looking closer to a 9 or less to the over, 9.5 or higher to the under, and the Dodgers being closer to about a minus 130, minus 135, depending upon the circumstance. And that'll wrap things up for the Friday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to our guy William Boor over at Action Network for joining me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, large CM, name does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.